Let's talk a little bit about Xbox. We talked about your experience with Halo Infinite earlier, but there's some interesting things happening in the world of Xbox. On this show, we've talked multiple times about the ongoing acquisition troubles, the court conversations, all that shit between Xbox and PlayStation and Congress and the fucking STC, everybody. And Chris Scullion over at VGC, by way of Stephen Totillo at Axios, has some interesting things that I want to discuss here on the podcast right now about a mystery game that Xbox is developing. It goes like this. Xbox currently has a mystery sequel in development that could take as long as a decade to make. It has been revealed, as spotted by Axios' Stephen Totillo. The game was mentioned in court documents relating to an ongoing legal challenge in which a group of self-identified gamers are trying to block Microsoft's acquisition to Activision Blizzard. At one point, the document explains that AAA games can take a long time to make using Halo Infinite, as discussed earlier, as an example, though the length and cost of development is redacted. It then says, quote, for instance, according to one Microsoft executive, Redacted, a forthcoming title from the Redacted franchise,
good God,
may take a decade to develop. It's not clear if this is a completely new game that hasn't yet been announced or something players already know about, such as the Elder Scrolls 6, which was announced back in 2018. So that would be halfway into development if Elder Scrolls 6 is the game from the Redacted franchise that they're discussing. But Bethesda's Todd Howard said in 2021 that it was, quote, good to think of the Elder Scrolls 6 as being in the design phase, suggesting that the Xbox exclusive is still some years away. So it came in, this is one of those things. It's like, is this really news? Not necessarily, but for the sake of the podcast, I thought it might be interesting to discuss what we might think this mystery game is. Could it be a Halo reboot? Could it be the Elder Scrolls? Could it be fucking Blinks the Time Sweeper? What could this be, do you think?
Definitely Blinks the Time Sweeper.
Yeah, and that's our show.
Maybe even Gex.
Oh,
I don't know who owns the rights to
Gex.
Gex.
I want to say Gex was a PlayStation game, but I could be wrong.
Who knows? I think the safe answer is probably Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
They announced Elder Scrolls in 2018. So I guess the big lingering question mark around it is this a game that is taking 10 years from like
this
the
point?
time? Yeah.
Right.
Or like where's that 10 years starting? Because let's be honest, we have Starfield on the way coming out this year, presumably. Elder Scrolls 6, I mean, they announced in 2018. Obviously, they had done some work to some degree. So I would say probably at the earliest, maybe 2016, maybe 2017. And so if we're thinking about the way the development
2026, 2027.
Exactly. Which would put it around that 10-year mark.
Yeah.
But I think that the misnomer might be that it takes 10 years to develop a game. Could just be this like, we have been in pre-development for like a few years. And then like because we've got another game in the works.
Yeah.
This is not like a situation where it's like one developer, this is all they're doing.
Sure.
Especially something like Xbox. If you were to be like, hey, if Xbox were to announce like we have exclusive rights to the Chocolatier, which they don't. Like they're not going to. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, that is the guy who made Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
So if they were to say like that, like it's just one person working on a game. Yeah. 10 years makes sense. I think it took him 10 years to make Stardew Valley or something close to that. So like a small indie game, but like if you have a full blown studio working on something, 10 years is ludicrous.
It is.
Unless they're about to drop a game that is like, it takes you a few years to finish.
Sure.
And it's like some huge scoping, cloud-infused, futuristic bullshit. I don't know. I don't know how anything works. But
well, the thing that kind of got my mind spinning on this was, do you remember this game that we've heard about from Xbox? From, I believe the studio is called The Initiative. That is supposedly the first quadruple A game ever made. Do you remember this? Do you remember hearing about this?
Oh, yeah. I remember us having great lengths trying to figure out what the fuck a quadruple A game is.
Right. I think that probably just means you spent more money than you normally spend on a AAA game. And so I wonder if this 10 years to develop idea is like, is this another, like, are they going to maybe try to make a new Halo a quadruple A game and it's going to take 10 years to make because it's going to be so big and so like so much money is put into it? Or is this just like is this a non-story? It's probably a non-story, but I find it interesting to discuss possibilities. It could also like, is it a reboot of Gears that like they're starting over? Is it a, you know what I mean? Like I think there are things that it could be, but I do agree with you. I think the safe answer is it's Elder Scrolls 6 or even Fallout, because we did also hear, I want to say it was last year, Todd Howard like weirdly in like a really casual way confirm like, oh yeah, we're doing Fallout right now as well. But like if you're making Starfield, which is going to be huge, and Elder Scrolls 6, there is no way Fallout is not coming out for at least 8 years.
Yeah.
And eight is pretty close to 10. So I don't know. We'll see. Let us know if you have any ideas or thoughts on what this mystery game could be, or if you think this is just bullshit around this whole Activision debacle that is just out of context kind of thing. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. So we'll see where that takes us.